Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is Janai with Karmic Fixer Tarot. And this is just going to be maybe a quick video of me just kind of talking and whatnot. I'm really trying to keep my commitment of posting a couple times a week to my YouTube. It's a new channel, so I haven't got a lot of engagement yet. So you're probably the only person watching this video, and thank you for that, by the way. And yeah, I guess I'm just kind of talking a little bit. I've had a few things on my mind that I wanted to do a video on. I was maybe thinking of doing a reading related to the videos, but I don't know if I necessarily need to do a reading per se. I think I'm a little bit behind the ball on this particular story about Alex Reads Tarot. I didn't follow her on TikTok, but for what I've been reading about, over the past few weeks, her leaving TikTok, putting aside her tarot reading and becoming Christian. And I thought that was really interesting. I think the thing that was more interesting to me, though, was the reactions that I've seen across social media about her leaving the tarot space and being Christian. I don't know if she originally came from a Christian background and is going back to it or whatnot, but I just thought the reactions were interesting, and it kind of made me think about what responsibility people have in spiritual spaces, providing any kind of spiritual guidance or, divination or things like that. And I thought it was really interesting. I'm new to divination. I've always had an interest in astrology since I was a little girl, but this is kind of the first time I'm really following those interests and studying and learning. But tarot was something I kind of stumbled on late 2024. I started watching YouTube videos on, showing different, divinators, people who did tarot. And I was drawn to things like celebrity videos, um, reading tarot on different celebrity relationships, celebrity gossip, things like that. And I also found some channels of people just kind of doing collective readings based on people's sun signs and things like that. And it resonated with me. I thought there was something really interesting, really magical about the cards. And the more I saw of the videos, the more I wanted to learn how to read tarot myself. So from there, I've been reading, studying tarot and practicing reading. I really hadn't started reading till late fall of 2024, and I'd started posting videos. I think it was 2025. I actually started posting videos, things like that, and just kind of growing my channel and just kind of deciding what I wanted to do with tarot, if that was something that I wanted to pursue professionally, or if I just wanted to be a hobbyist, or what I wanted content to be. I have a channel where I would post myself singing and things like that, and I always felt like YouTube would be a great way to just express my interests, my talents, things that I was, things I wanted to put out into the world. But getting into tarot was the main thing that really just kind of inspired me, way more in a lot of ways than singing. So I finally found something that I was excited about and interested in, and that I could commit to making content with. So that's kind of where I am now. And the more I've been learning tarot, and the more I've just been inspired by it, the more insights I've gotten from reading for myself, it did kind of make me think where I would like tarot to go. And I had been wondering about whether or not I wanted to be a professional tarot reader, whether I wanted to do more things like collective readings and, just reading. I like the idea of reading for others, just personal private readings. I've gotten some experience reading for other people, which I really enjoy. But I guess bringing it back to the Alex Reads Tarot angle, just kind of seeing the controversy there, the aftermath of her leaving, her own reasons for stepping away from social media and stepping away from tarot reading, it really made me think about, what I might want to do as a tarot reader. And it kind of made me think about the responsibility that tarot readers have. Anytime you're in a spiritual space, anytime you position yourself as a, spiritual advisor, wisdom giver, that sort of thing, there is a responsibility that, at least in my opinion, that I would think that you would have. And it's not something you should take lightly. You're on the internet, you're throwing cards, people are resonating with the messages that you're sending. I think at a certain point, Alex Reads Tarot was providing readings, and she was being paid for giving readings. And when you bring commerce into things like spirituality, that opens all sorts of doors. And that actually makes me think about growing up in the evangelical church. That's kind of part of my story. Um, I came from the evangelical tradition, um, you know, televangelists, all of that, and just kind of how people position themselves as, and I'm not comparing Alex Reads Tarot to, a televangelist or anything, but I think that it gets to be kind of I think you get into kind of precarious territory when you become a spiritual advisor, and you know you, it's really interesting. On one hand, spiritual advising, divination, whatever your particular gift is, it's labor. So on one hand, there's nothing wrong with receiving monetary compensation for your spiritual labor, for your insight, and for your wisdom. But I think the thing that really kind of caught my imagination, the thing that really kind of made me think about what it would mean to be a tarot reader or somebody providing spiritual advice, is what happens if you reach a point where you're at a spiritual crossroads. What should you do when you're in a place where maybe you're feeling called away from that particular practice? Maybe you're having misgivings about being a tarot reader, or any type of spiritual advisor, or maybe conversely, if there's stories of people who were clergy or whatnot, and maybe they're at having a crisis of faith. Where does that leave the people who come to you for spiritual advice? And this isn't to say that you can't have a crisis of faith. I mean, people are human. I mean, things happen. It kind of makes you wonder what your responsibility is to the people who come to you for advice. Should you continue to give advice to people while you're, questioning your faith or questioning your practices? And so I think that was the interesting kind of moral question that came up. Obviously, people have the right to evolve and change, and if they move from spirituality to religion, or vice versa, or if they just kind of change their practices, they change their mind, or something no longer resonates with them. Um, it kind of makes you think about, again, where it leaves the people who gravitated toward this person. And so that's a really big responsibility, I think. And that's something that I've really been thinking about as far as being a reader or wanting to be a tarot reader. And I can say fairly certainly, I can say that I'm in a place now where, divination has opened up all sorts of insights for me. It's given me so much to think about. It's resonated very deeply with me to a point where I don't see myself putting it away. I'm considerably older than Alex Reads Tarot. I'm in my late 40s, and there's a part of me that wishes that I'd pursued this, earlier in life. But I think a lot of times our spiritual practices um, find us when it's time for those practices to find us. So I'm in a place where I'm fairly certain that um, my mind won't change about tarot and divination and studying astrology. I'm really kind of getting into astrology also and taking courses on it. And, I hope to grow into an astrologer, somebody who can um, cast charts, who can, read for people, who can gain insights about my own, my own life and my own sort of, just kind of the way that the stars have unfolded for me or whatnot. So I find that very interesting. And so I think this is a practice that I'll be in, for the rest of my life. But that isn't to say that, people don't change and, people don't evolve. And that's obviously something that people have a right to do. But yeah, so that really made me think about, what it would mean for me to become a online tarot reader, to be in the space. And the more I think about it, and the more I think about kind of what my channel is evolving into, um, and I could probably change my mind about this, but where it stands right now, I don't think that this particular channel will be one for a lot of collective readings. I've noticed a lot of people in the tarot space on these channels, they do a lot of collective readings, which can be really insightful. But for me personally, I don't think that's a route that I would necessarily go because the more I think about it, I don't necessarily think I want to put myself in the position to essentially be a spiritual advisor. I think that tarot is something that people can learn independently. It can be something that can be a great tool for someone to um, just kind of get to know their inner self, gain trust in their intuition, just kind of grow. And I think this can be a really, I think tarot can be a really helpful tool for, you know, individuation, for self growth, for just kind of contemplating, contemplating your life and just kind of, it can be a mirror of your subconscious, I think. Um, I'm still learning about things like, say, Jungian psychology and how Carl Jung took the tarot archetypes and used that in his practice. And that was actually the thing that kind of also drew me deeper into tarot. But I think tarot can be a really good tool for helping anybody to just kind of learn more about themselves. So I think I would really like this channel to be to be a space where people can learn about tarot. I would really like this channel to be a place where people can come, can study, can gain some insights on reading tarot for themselves. And based on my own metrics, based on the statistics for this channel, um, I'm currently doing a Jungian deck study where I'm kind of going through each of the cards and just kind of, talking through the imagery, giving a little history or a little bit of the interpretation, and just kind of this specific deck's um, symbolism and interpretation of so far the major arcana archetypes, the major arcana cards. I don't know if I'll do it for the entire deck, but so far, going through each of the major arcana cards seems to be a big task. And even though this is a small channel, I am noticing that my deck study videos get the most engagement. So I can take that as a sign that perhaps that's something that people are more interested in than, say, the readings that I've done. Most of the readings that I've done are more kind of personal. I wouldn't necessarily call them collective readings, even though I think there are some videos where I've attempted to do something resembling a collective reading. And I can't say I have the most confidence in reading for a collective, tapping into the collective energy. And I don't know, maybe that's something that I will revisit Maybe that's something I'll do every now and then, but I don't think that will be the primary function of this channel. And the more that I study tarot and the more that I grow in it, I think I do like the idea of, studying specific decks. The decks that I'm most interested in, or the decks that I have been most interested in as I've gotten into tarot, are kind of the more traditional decks. I started with this Jungian deck, which isn't, I wouldn't call it a traditional deck, but it's very fascinating. And I think it might have a more specific purpose for, delving into Jungian psychology through tarot. But aside from that particular deck, the first few decks that I got were just kind of the classics. Of course, there's the Rider-Waite-Smith deck that's so well known. That's one that people tend to gravitate toward. It's the most well known, most iconic tarot images. And then, of course, the I haven't used this deck in a while, but my little Marseille deck. Actually, when I first started studying tarot, I did get a book about tarot archives that, not tarot archives, what I'm saying, the tarot archetypes that was based on the Marseille deck and the imagery there, and that made me interested in getting that deck. And I'm still very interested in tarot as a humanities, as kind of like classical, I dare say, kind of like classical literature. Tarot has a very rich history, and I have a background in English literature. I have an English degree, but my background includes just kind of classics, humanities, antiquity, things like that. And personally, I see tarot along the lines of just kind of a study in the classics. Going back to um, tarot's origins as a game, back in Italy. I think 1700s. I think I have to double check on that. Still learning the history, but I think that's one way that I've approached tarot, as kind of a classical practice, a classical kind of language. And so I think I would like to be more of a tarot scholar on this channel, maybe going through the different, classical decks. After I finish the Jungian deck study, who knows, I might break out into a study of my Marseille deck, or, I might do a basic study of the Rider-Waite-Smith. I think that might be something that this channel can be used for. I think it'll be a space for learning about tarot, and hopefully encouraging you, my audience, to to read tarot for yourselves. I think that's one of the main ways that people can feel more empowered, and perhaps even less reliant on a tarot reader. Not that there's anything wrong with getting a professional reading done. Not that there's anything wrong with somebody else's insight, helping you to see your own inner workings, helping you to develop your own intuition, or you know helping you to helping you down your own path. It never hurts to I guess have somebody else do a reading for you. That's always a really special thing, I think. But I think the most important thing, at least in my opinion, is to, well, I guess maybe not the most important thing, but I think it's definitely beneficial if tarot is something that you're interested in. Just kind of start learning it for yourself. I think, I guess it goes back to the whole giving man a fish versus teaching them how to fish. I think I think YouTube can be a good space for people who are curious about tarot to to come and learn. That's where I've learned so much about tarot, different decks, different interpretations. And just watching other tarot readers, you know, throw the cards and give really insightful interpretations and insightful readings. So, there's a lot to be said for, I guess, watching those collective readings, or, just learning more from, online tarot spaces. But I think ultimately, I would like this channel to be a place where people can learn tarot for themselves. So I guess it's kind of a mission statement I'm putting out here. Um, just kind of thinking about the Alex Reads Tarot situation and wanting to be a space where people feel empowered to explore tarot on their own. So I think that's what this channel will be. Um, if I do more card readings, the readings that I have tended to post, they've been kind of more personal, not necessarily collective readings, but maybe a question that I've had for the cards, question I might have had for the universe, and I'll post it for the sake of posting content, hoping that maybe it'll resonate with someone else out there. And if it does resonate, that's always something that I'm happy about. But I think that's what I'm going forward. Maybe a few more readings, not necessarily collective, but just some readings when it strikes my fancy to do that. But mostly, this might be a space where we can go through different decks. If I get new decks, um, unbox them here, give them a give a preview. Maybe that's something that people out there who are exploring different decks or exploring buying new different. I'm rambling. Um, seeing what decks are out there. I think it'd be a fun way to highlight a deck that I've gotten that you know that resonated with me that I find really interesting. So I think that's where this channel's gonna go. Um, and yeah, this is kind of just a very sort of basic video. The whole Alex Reads Tarot thing. I definitely wish her luck and Godspeed in her journey, and hopefully, her pivot to her pivot to faith, her pivot to Christianity or whatnot will be something that she finds very life affirming, something that she finds a lot of solace and a lot of strength in. And yeah, and in the meantime, I'll be here doing my tarot, going through decks, hopefully putting up content that you find really engaging. And if this is something that you're interested in, look forward to seeing more of you. Please don't hesitate to like the video if you like the video. Leave a comment if you have any insight about what you'd like this channel to be, or if you have any insight about Alex Reads Tarot, or just kind of the online divination space, tarot, astrology, etc. online. Definitely leave it in the comments. And if this is something that that you'd like to see more of, please consider subscribing to the channel. And yeah, I just wanted to post, keeping in the habit of, posting as often as I can. And yeah, I hope this video was of interest to you. And if you've made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. And be on the lookout for more content. And of course, there's my Jungian deck study that I'll be doing, until I get to the end of the deck. And thank you so much for watching. And until next time, this was Karmic Fixer Tarot with Janai, and I'll see you again. Take care.